All right, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching To The Point, and our conversation tonight is Bridging the Digital Divide. Our guests are gentlemen dealing with the AI space. And before we went on that very short break, Mike, you were making a very critical point that really caught my attention on how cheap is cheap in the rural areas. And my question to you before we went on that very short break: won't I, a person living in Nairobi, go to the rural area to get a phone or a tablet or a laptop because it has been made cheaper in those areas? What do you think?
I think it would be a waste. So my explanation around that is the devices that would go to these areas, these marginalized areas, are going to be specialized devices. The hardware in itself will be very different. You want devices that can withstand wear and tear, devices that can last upwards of 2 to 3 years. You're looking at devices that will meet certain requirements. They won't be 5G devices because there's no 5G there. You're looking at maybe 3G, 4G devices. And certain features on these devices which are nice to have would not be there essentially. You want them to have these devices for communication, access to internet, and learning and all these things. So certain things on these devices may not be necessary. You may not want to build a device with maybe a fingerprint sensor or the face ID. So that removing some of those features would make the devices cheaper. So whereas you would have your iPhone here in Nairobi and you pay 100,000 for it, you won't go to Turkana and find your iPhone for 700 shillings. You'll find a different device that's been built to cater to the needs of these people here and also to allow for that digital inclusion. Yeah.
All right, now let's take a look at how this affects the employment. And according to the International Labour Organization, limited digital skills reduce employment opportunities for youth in undeserved areas, and it also excavates existing socioeconomic inequalities. Kennedy, do you agree?
I do fully agree. In that these digital spaces, as earlier mentioned, they've given us an opportunity to, one, you can be able to further your career. We've talked of EdTech platforms where you can improve your skills, you can learn online. And now we're in the era of online remote learning. So that means if I don't have, I don't have the digital literacy skills, I'm not digitally savvy to understand how to leverage these platforms, how to safely use these platforms, it means opportunities for me to improve my career are minimal. Two, again, we're looking at these digital spaces have been places where people have used to promote themselves, to promote their careers. We're looking at platforms such as LinkedIn, Twitter, and any other platforms. So if I'm left out of these platforms, it means I don't have a wider opportunity to reach out to a wider audience, and it means I'm limited in terms of opportunities that I can have access to. We're also looking at these digital spaces have provided opportunities for people who have businesses that they can come online and they can be able to leverage the different platforms to promote their businesses, to get more customers, to be able to make more sales. So it means if I don't have access to these opportunities, I have a limited clientele and the people who just know either by word of mouth or what I do. So I'm limited. I cannot be able to use a digital space because I don't have the digital skills and I even don't know how maybe to use Facebook for marketing. Again, we're also looking at these digital spaces and the skills that I've gained to leverage these platforms. I can use them. They've really come in handy, and more so with the Jira Digital as income generating opportunities. I can be able now in the era of content creation and other emerging income generating opportunities that are really coming up. And I think it's in line with the tomorrow's bill that's being tabled in Senate. That's the Digital Economic Support Bill, all basically trying to look at how can we be able to support our people. So it means that if I don't have access to these online opportunities, digital platform and digital skills, I cannot even be able to come online, use my creativity and maybe create another added income generating opportunities. So we would go and on and showcase more of the opportunities and the benefits that are there if I have access to these skills and I know how to utilize these spaces safely and securely versus someone who is locked out of the digital space. They don't have access to the digital platforms. They don't have the knowledge. So would go and more. There are many opportunities. It means that also as a youth, right now in the era of where we're using digital platforms for digital activism and championing for accountability. So if I'm not online, I cannot be able to contribute to the discussions. So there's a lot that if I have this knowledge and I know how to use these platforms safely and securely, I can be able to tap in and benefit from a wide range of opportunities. And that's why there's need for us to bridge that gap and ensure everyone is connected online.
And you also mentioned something that takes me to our next point, and that is Ajira digital program, right? Yes. All right, now this is one of the government initiatives in trying to bridge this digital divide in the country. And the Ajira digital program, its objective is to equip young Kenyans with the skills needed to work online and access digital job opportunities. Key features include training and mentorship in digital skills, access to job opportunities in the online economy. I see online gig economy, okay. And collaboration with the private sector to create more digital work opportunities. Now, Kennedy, do you think that with this program, Ajira digital program, the government has been able to achieve its main objective when we're looking at the rural areas?
It's a good step in the right direction, but it's faced big challenges that have hampered the vision of the initiative from when it was initiated up to now. If you look at the objectives and the impact so far, it was a great project, but we've had challenges. One challenge has been, and I gave an example of the so-called ICT software factory, the first one in Kenya, in Mulot. One challenge that has had with that particular facility is that we have poor leadership. We have leaders who do not support these visions, or people who come on board and mismanage these initiatives. And if you follow the whole case of Mulot, the objective and how we ended up even having now just a Mabati thatched room with even no computers, because you realize that there were funding and resources that were set aside. But the people put on board to implement, so there are a lot of challenges that have hampered the successful implementation of these projects, but it's a great initiative. If you look at the areas that's been successful, you're able to see that a lot of youths have been able to gain skills on how they can use the digital platforms. They've been able to access jobs, but there's more work to be done, because if at all as a country we can use the ICT hub in Ruiru as a benchmark, and when you get there, you realize this is the vision that we had, but what has been implemented, there's a lot we can do to make it a reality. But it's a great project.
All right, Mike, do you agree, do you think rather that the government with the Ajira digital program, they've been able to achieve the objective, which is to equip young Kenyans with the skills needed to work online and access digital job opportunities?
I don't think they've met the objective, which obviously would take quite a lot of time to fulfill this objective. I think more of the same around issues that this platform still faces challenges where marginalized groups, people in the rural areas have been marginalized because they don't have access to this platform. They don't have access to internet, to power, to devices so that they can access this platform. So it's serving some people, it's not serving everyone. Obviously, you'd want to build it to serve as many people as possible. So obviously there's a lot of room for improvement to deal with issues of accessibility. So it always comes back to infrastructure for me. If basic education, there's a challenge getting basic education across the entire country. Schools that don't have proper structures, that are not also being maintained well. If that's a challenge, then even the digital side of it will fall short. If we're going to say maybe we're at a 6 out of 10, for example, when it comes to our existing education system, then the digital one would be a lot lower, because if there are kids in places where they do not have their schools have no power, or these kids have to leave school to go kilometers on end to fetch water. What's the point of bringing a laptop there? The kids are not in school half the time. I think you first get them to be in school in a good environment that encourages learning. Then after you build on those layers. Now you say, now that we've got structures that people can learn, we've put up the right infrastructure, what else can we do? Then the next step maybe is now access to these digital skills, because now it's something that can be done. But I find it a bit perplexing. It's sort of like buying a train and you haven't set up the rails yet. Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at Konza Technopolis, another government initiative. Its objective is aimed at creating a technology hub that will drive innovation, research, and digital economic growth in the country. Key features include development of high-speed broadband infrastructure, hosting research and development facilities, tech companies, and universities, as well as promoting innovation in ICT, biotechnology, and renewable energy. How about this one, Kamande?
It's a great initiative for someone, I personally, who's been following on the Technopolis bill and how it's progressing in Parliament. I'd really say that it's a good initiative from the government, looking at also the various initiatives it's taken. That is, I'm particularly interested and more so excited on how they're building the sandboxes. That's basically platforms that will enable startups and creative people to come on board. They can be able to experiment, do the incubation, being supported by government. So that's a particular, I'd say, a particular investment that I'm quite excited about when you talk of the Technopolis and all about it. And it's a great initiative, and let's hope that we'll have enough funding to breathe it to life. We'll have able leaders and both from human to resources to be able to lead the projects to ensure that the people can be able to benefit from startups, ensuring that we're able to support our innovation, our incubation and funding, and all the promises that have been made. I hope that we can use it as a platform and a model for Africa. So it's a good initiative, I would say so.
Mike, what are some of the untapped opportunities by this Konza Metropolis, right? If I'm not Konza Technopolis, that you think the government should tap into to just ensure digital inclusion?
So hopefully, this was some years back. I had the opportunity to visit and see what's going on at Konza. At that time, I'd say I had not been moved by the whole concept. But then that changed after getting to see how they're putting up the infrastructure and some of the things. One thing which I felt could be done different is, I know they're putting up a university, I think, in partnership with Japan, if I'm not wrong. And I think the university, at that time, it was mentioned that it's primarily for masters and postgraduate, which I felt would not attract enough people. Most people who are taking up their masters or their PhDs, I think have settled where they are. It's very difficult to attract them to move. I think learning centers attract, a lot of cities in the past were built around learning centers. So if they could have a learning center that can attract undergrads and other levels, people who, an 18-year-old will quickly move there. You're not going to move a family of 5 because the husband or the wife wants to do a master's. It's a lot more difficult. It's a bigger conversation. So I felt in terms of attracting people to Konza, they needed, yes, the tertiary institutions for learning that offer a lot more than just master's or PhD. Yes, they want it for purposes of research, but undergrad, people taking up undergrad would move a lot faster and a lot easier. They have less, I think they have less of a burden when it comes to uprooting their life from Mombasa, from Kilifi, from Kisumu to come to Konza. I think it will be a lot more difficult for someone who has a whole family. So I think that was a missed opportunity at the time. I don't know if it's changed. It could also be part of their strategy, and maybe their strategy works. It was just that I felt cities in the past, because history does tend to repeat itself, we've seen cities in the past always grow around centers of knowledge, of research, of that exchange. So the more people you have doing that, the more growth you would expect. So I don't think there should be such a high threshold to who gets into these spaces. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting, Mike. Now, as we wind up, of course, the show is almost coming to an end, but I want us to take a look at the significance of for sustainable development, and the digital access empowers youth, driving innovation, education, and job creation. This is according to the UN in regards to sustainable development goals. It also is essential for achieving Kenya's sustainable development goals. Do you agree?
Yeah.
All right. And now youth empowerment. Closing this digital divide aligns with SDG 9 and SDG 10. It is central to this year's International Youth Day theme, which said, from clicks to progress, youth digital pathways for sustainable development. Now, International Youth Day was last month. Do you think we have achieved this, from clicks to progress? Are we progressing in terms of bridging this digital divide in line with this theme? Ken?
I'd say as a country, the events that have preceded in the last few months have shown us as a nation that the digitally savvy population, that's majority the youth, they've really taken up the digital spaces as a very powerful tool. And we've seen even other countries now benchmarking. You're looking at Nigeria, you're looking at Ghana and other countries and South Africa, all drawing inspiration from Kenya, how they've been able to use digital activism to champion for accountability. And even right now, the government is still under pressure to still be able to be put on toes by people. And this one significance of ensure having people that are digitally savvy and they're able to access the internet and able to use it. They know how to use it safely and securely to be able to champion whatever it is that's important to them, whether it's creating jobs and such. So I would say that this has been a great showcase, not just to us, because you know we can talk of as our youths. If you look at the Global Digital Index Report 2024, it will tell us that in Kenya we've been able to adopt or maybe use TikTok for job creation and such benefits. But my particular case that really cements and makes me feel that as a nation, and the majority of us who are in the digital space are really using these spaces well, and more of us, even the older generations, are more excited to learn about how to use these spaces, because how this whole the protests and the changes that we've had in Kenya, I think for me it's set a good precedence, set a good benchmark for many countries. And talking from a point of, I was privileged to be in Parliament for the National Youth Bunge on the International Youth Day. And part of the deliberations or the interventions that we made and acknowledgements were that initially our leaders or the people have not perceived the digital space as a space that could either be taken serious to champion for political causes. Good example, some of our leaders, even during the finance bill termed, that they didn't really take us serious. But I'm looking at a case of that all the lessons that we've learned and are we taking from all that has happened is that there's more that we can do as youths. We have the energy, we have the potential, there's more we can utilize these spaces. But while all that happens, we've also been opened to a world that there are also challenges. And these challenges will either come from the government, such as internet shutdowns, censorship, and many other challenges that will come as we adopt these technologies. So we are learning a lot of lessons that, yes, we can utilize these spaces to champion for and power good causes. There will be challenges, and what's best for us to figure out how to mitigate as we move. And it's an exciting time for us as youth, and let's use the spaces meaningfully.
Right. Let's also hear from Mike before we are cut short by time, of course. We are running out of time. But also this should serve as your parting shot, Mike. Would you agree that as a nation, we have lived up to this year's International Youth Day theme which of course is in line with our conversation today, Bridging the Digital Divide. The theme is From Clicks to Progress, Youth Digital Pathways for Sustainable Development. Your take, Mike.
I think we are. I think I saw quite a lot of interesting initiatives beyond even just, especially I think when we talk about the youth, we've had that in our head. It's, I guess, the Gen Z millennials, but I'm not sure what generation comes after them, but I saw quite a lot of interesting things being showcased during the week for the International Youth Day. And I did see kids who are being taught, kids who are quite young, who are being taught how to understand
what's going on.
I was impressed by one organization. Unfortunately, I can't remember the name. I don't want to guess, but they were teaching kids how to participate in public participation, because some of these bills which are being proposed actually affect children, and so they are finding ways to take that content, simplify it for kids, have kids do engagement. I remember seeing a video where kids were being asked, how can the internet be made safer? And you're seeing kids go through certain programs, and they are showcasing some of their ideas around this. You're seeing kids doing media programs, and I think it shows progress. And I think it's important. It's called from clicks to progress. It's not from clicks to an actual destination. It's more of a journey. And I think as a country, yes, we've embraced it. I think there are a lot of good initiatives out there being done by non-profits, being done by government, being done by private sector to push this. And I think it's something during that time, the few organizations I interacted with where I went to speak, I felt there is actually something substantial that's going on. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for those insightful remarks. My take from this is that we still need much more infrastructure in the marginalized areas, the rural areas, in order to help bridge this digital divide in the country currently. Thank you so much once again for coming to the point. We are honored to have you here, and dearest viewer, thank you so much for watching. That brings us to the end of our discussion tonight and to the end of the show. My name is Anne Odida. It has been an honor being with you tonight. Do have a good night and see you next time, inshallah.